All right. How's everybody doing? Good. Doing well. All right. So I know there's a lot of different documents, including fee proposals and everything. Does everybody have access to the list of the standard questions? And if not, let me know. I can print one for you real quickly. Good. What do you have? All right. So, I guess I got a comment from Dr. Linshield, which is a good comment. We'll have to have the wording exactly how you said it. Dr. Linshield suggests we add something to the effect of, I guess you're right here, probably have the email in front of you. What other alternative solutions have been proposed, or rather than proposing a fee have been considered? Why would you propose a fee rather than opt for an alternative solution? I think that is a great question. That's something that we kind of are trying to get at, because, you know, in the number of different revenue possibilities, what other options do you have? So I'm going to go ahead and, if that's okay, everybody add that to our list.
Jen, we're working on that standard question.
Standard questions, yeah, the standard questions document.
Would it be something like what other options were considered and why is a fee proposal what was decided on, or something like that?
Because I don't think because I think I agree with her intent. I think if the intent is maybe, because you guys are thinking revenue, it might be that, hey, are there other options? You know what I mean? That could be considered, or, you know, what are the other sort of parameters that have been thought about? Because that'll probably help you get a sense on where their thinking is at. You know what I mean? I guess.
Absolutely.
Considered or explored.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We'll wordsmith that. Yeah, I think that's probably a good standalone question.
Mm-hmm.
Just that what other alternative solutions? Because that's a good point as well. Not even beyond revenue.
Cindy writes, getting ready for board meeting tomorrow, so I'll be late, hopefully only 15 minutes.
Sounds good. Great. Other comments, other questions about this is the standard questions, which I'll remind you is a separate document than what Miranda's working on about the preparation of our thoughts for CTCs. So, all right, I guess if there's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve this. So moved. Okay.
Second.
Moved and second, we approve the college fee surcharge standard questions document. Turn it over to Olivia. You're good. And the only difference between what's written and what's being proposed voting on is that we added after 3, what alternative solutions rather than proposing a fee have been explored and or considered. Why did you propose a fee rather than opt for alternative solution?
James, were you the second on that?
I was the motion.
Oh, motion.
Ryan was the second.
Jack,
Thanks, James.
Jonathan.
Yep.
William. Nate.
Yep.
Miranda. Yes. Trent.
Yes.
Dalton.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Julia. Yes. Brett.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Passes. 10-0-0.
All right. Okay. Well, so just to touch on a quick note, logistics otherwise, in regards to that, what Miranda's working on, we chatted last night, and since that document is really the one that's being used that we can present to colleges, to college tuition committees, which we'll talk about here in a minute, that document I think we'll probably do is whenever you get that done by the end of the week, send it up to the committee. Everybody will give Miranda their feedback, and then we'll be able to present that once the college tuition committee meets for the first time. I'll send that to them prior to that. Sound like a good plan for everybody? All right.
I just really stupid question.
Yeah.
CTC, College Tuition Committee, yet they're talking about fees.
So the reason why
It just hit me.
no, yeah, and that's the reason why it's called college tuition committee is because that assumes that we would assuming like a differential tuition model, so it provide the same function.
So we're laying the groundwork.
Well, we're using we're using the proposal, and CTC was what it was called in the proposal, and so.
Okay, I'm just thinking it might be confusing going forward. Anyway,
Sure.
it just struck me head on.
That's a good question. On that topic, though, we've reached out to Dean DeNoble, Dean Dawson, and Dean Buckwalter. And we're kind of thinking lead-wise, between the two of those, Jonathan is going to, I guess, be the first among equals for engineering and for human ecology, and I'll lead the architecture, plan, and design one. So I guess defer questions specifically to one of us for those fees, if that makes sense.
So can you say that again?
Absolutely.
Jack, you're gonna be
APD.
APD.
And then Jonathan will take the other.
Engineering and human ecology.
Thank you.
Like I said, we'll both, co-chair it just like we're doing here with the larger group. However, just as a singular point person. But if you have questions, please copy both of us. Just for my headache's sake, that'd be great. So, like I said, we reached out and we gave Dean Dawson and Dean DeNoble a deadline on Friday, this coming Friday, the 16th, and then
Monday for Dean
Buckwalter for their appointments. So what will probably happen is, next week, if I'm hoping that we can get one of those before Friday, and if we could, get the crew to align for Tuesday as a presentation, that'd be incredible. Although I know that a lot of the deans are available that night if we can get that on their calendar. So there could be our first meeting on Tuesday. That's it. It's kind of a quick turnaround time. However, if they've already made their announcements and kind of had indicated what night works for them, so we'll be in contact with you that way. The challenge is that there's not a meeting on February 27th. So if we can't meet on the 20th, then we're meeting on the first week of March. So we'd really like to have that first meeting on the 20th. So, and the other thing is what, Jonathan and I put together our list of, or basically a packet that we gave the deans who presented a fee that talked about why we chose the different process and what this means, things like that. And included in that, we were sitting in the office trying to figure out exactly how many members from this committee should be on, some of the different college tuition committees. Kind of made the decision that we would like for everybody to come, since it's the same meeting time, get those all on their calendar now. We'd like for everybody here to come and sit in those chairs for the discussion, so there can be, it's not a siloed process. If you can't make all the meetings, that's fine, but I'd really like for everybody to be there. You won't have a vote, but just to be an observer of that process, that can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Although there's some rooms that are not going to be able to meet here.
So there are going to be 3 fees going on at
Right.
the same time. So are we going to have 3 meetings at the same time, or are we going to how's that going to work?
Like a presentation, like we'd stack back-to-back presentations in any other year, where we'd have Dean Dawson come in and then Dean Buckwalter come in after him. So it'd be short meetings for the college tuition committees.
Okay, so like short half-hour meetings, they come in and present, and then we immediately switch out.
Yeah, switch out, and we wouldn't make a decision. It'd be like a 2-week process or a 3-week process. Anything else? I think logistically, Jonathan, you want to add? Yeah, bear with us. It's a new.
Yeah, and one thing that might throw a little bit of a wrench in it is human ecology does have 2 separate fees that they're proposing, and specifically one for the personal financial planning department and one for the kinesiology department.
Go ahead.
But we're going to have one college tuition committee that will address both of those fees for human ecology.
Will they vote on them and move them forward on like an a la carte fashion, or will they be together?
A la carte fashion, because there are 2 separate fee
Okay.
proposals.
And could you clarify, I confused you earlier today, why we were getting a list of questions together when this group is not the CTC?
Because, so, and I texted you back about that because I wanted to clarify that we wanted a kind of an initial round of review with this committee, kind of like what we talked about before. Because what I don't want to happen is for somebody in here to have a big concern about a fee that they don't feel is addressed by the college tuition committee, and then on the end of the process say, well, I had this one question way back when I never got to ask this question. So this is the opportunity, I think, to do that. And kind of get to say, here's the concern that I personally have with the fee. but I want to make sure that the other students have an ability to answer that question. So the college tuition committees will be able to, they also will be able to send in their questions. However, I wanted to have an initial round of that tonight. That kind of answer your question? Because I think if there's something, especially if there's a component that you feel is missing, like I said, this is what I think this is an effort just as having all of these members sit in the CTCs as a, in the back of the room as a, is also a measure of trying to make the process not sound as siloed as it was presented, where you've got a group that meets and you know nothing about, and then all you look at is their recommendation. Yes.
Logistically, would the meeting next week be later if it did happen, given other schedules?
Other schedules.
Have you looked at?
Yeah. So I looked at that and I was thinking Jonathan could get that started just to keep it at 6 o'clock time. Your fault. I'm just kidding. We have interviews. I was just kidding with you. And so, yeah, so, okay, the awkward tension, I didn't mean for that to be weird. It's an interview to replace Provost Mason, and if we can ever accomplish that. So that's what's going on.
That's why it's flying over my
I was going to say, yeah. So, yes, there will be, next week, Jonathan will get everything started at 6 o'clock, and then I think I can just pop over here as soon as you're done with that. And so, it's kind of been, I guess we saw Dean Dawson's availability. He's available. We got availability from the other deans. Dean Noble's out of the country at the moment, so when he's going to be back.
I haven't heard anything back.
Yeah, so he hasn't told me.
He's in Italy, so he may never come out. He's with our KSU Italy program in Orvieto. Yeah, darn, huh?
Nate's upset he didn't take him, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, did we get to fly over to Italy to hear his proposal?
I'm game.
Okay, what other kind of logistical questions before we get into the questions?
Could I give just a little background on what's happened with these proposals before you get them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jonathan's explained that they've given human ecology a little more time because they needed to make some changes, in my opinion. They had things that I thought needed to be tightened up a little bit, and they did that exactly, but it came in a little bit later. Whereas I worked with Dean Dawson on a couple of things, and the one from APD, Dean DeNoble had been talking to me about this for some time, I mean months and months. So they came in all in advance of the February 1 deadline that I imposed, but I needed to work with human ecology. It was just a little bit more to tighten it up because having worked with you, I thought these are going to be questions anyway, so I might as well get them tightened up before. So I just wanted you to know that I did a thorough review of all three that came forward, and then I sent them on to Jack and Jonathan.
Did you have additional credit hour fees that came in?
It did not. It did not.
And no university-wide fees?
No. And one question that Jonathan was asked at the Faculty Senate meeting that I thought was an interesting one was, the question was raised, is the application for fees from the College of Engineering by department or by college? It's by college.
Yep.
Now, our three, however many people from engineering know that they did survey by department, but it came in as a College of Education fee. And I think that faculty member was just reacting to they had been surveyed by department.
I think so too.
It read very departmental, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the application I thought read very
It does.
departmentally,
It does.
segmented, I guess.
And that could be a great question.
Yeah, so that's my
If it
number.
was marketed as it's going to benefit each department, and the outreach was to each department. But anyway, that's for the next thing.
But just, Cindy is not here, but she would tell you that the student credit hours generated by civil are going to go to civil, but they're going to be looking across the entire college. But they do try to track them with some oversight at the college level. I couldn't get them off the way they did it by department. So,
Cause maybe I'd kind of like to wait for Cindy on that because I want to hear a little more about that.
Yeah.
So I guess just going in order before we get into that.
APD?
Yeah, I was say, are there any other questions though from Provost Mason? I'm not trying to shut down this good conversation about engineering, but that is an interesting point. And that was my main question. So.
Yeah.
All right. So architecture plan design, I think number one, and Jonathan and I are creating a Google Doc that we can forward on.
Can we throw it up on the screen?
Great. Do you want to, let me just,
We want to use the clip share?
I'll just put it on this back screen, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry, Steven's a little bit of a weird angle for you. All right. So my first question is that a lot of the student questions and student discussion has been about technology, and I haven't heard much about the APD Pro discussion. Did anybody else kind of hear that same thought? Because I guess on the first page it says this feed provides college opportunity to support students with technology, equipment, and a professional mentoring program. But I didn't really hear that part come through as strong, I guess, in some of the discussion. I think that he talks a lot about how there's the need for technology. I know that on the page 4 of the proposal, there is a conversation about how, well, even I'm not so sure I understand that either, because on page 4, if you look at the proposed, the only thing that, you have $200,000 a year in department allotment. Is that how you do the APD Pro? I'm not seeing the numbers for that mentoring program. I could be wrong.
Can someone clarify what APD Pro is?
APD Pro is a professional mentoring program.
They have a professional position, correct?
Coordinator.
Dedicated to that.
So Nate, what's work here, buddy?
So we have a corner position dedicated to that, and basically the program is an outreach program. You go to these lectures to qualify for the program, and after that you continue going to lectures, but you're paired up with somebody who is in the professional world that has graduated from K-State, and they kind of mentor you, and you talk to them, they come and visit, and you get to go visit their firm as you go along through your college career.
Is this facilitated through Wildcat Link? Is this what that is?
I don't know for sure.
Can we ask that question maybe?
What?
Is APD Pro using Wildcat Link, which is something that was funded by SCTE?
They listed, weren't they?
Yeah, I know that they have a mentoring program through Wildcat Link. I'm just curious if it's a specific
Yes.
mentoring program.
So
Because I was in Indiana.
what? So what I think they're doing is I think the SCTE proposal provides for the software and the technology, but I think they have a coordinator who then takes it a step further, if that makes sense. And they have a program they have a programmatic support that they do events, and I know, like the College of Business, they have scholarships or I thought they did, at least during SCTE we talked about this, they have scholarships for their mentees to fly and see their mentors and stuff like that, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah, this is what's on Wildcat Link. It's APD according to the Wildcat Link website. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, the coordinator position is separate.
Well, it's like I only see one staff salary. I mean, it's like there's $20,000. So maybe there's some college money as well. But I guess that's kind of what I'm looking at is, because especially that's staff salary includes, that's a lot of different individuals there. So just kind of want to ask, like, what exactly, we're in the budget projection. What exactly does this fee increase do to help APD Pro? Is that a fair question? Okay.
Another question could be, is APD Pro coordinator a current position? Or is it,
It
It
is.
is, yeah.
so is it something new that we're funding?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. What's the new?
So, okay, so if you, I don't know what page it's on, but it's one of the many emails that he included. Why is ADP Pro funded with these fees? The AD Pro coordinator position is funded through this fee as prescribed by the Dean's Student Advisory Committee with the approval of an increase to fees in 2013. Most AD Pro activities, including lectures, mentoring, portfolio and reviews, mock interviews, and design expo, are underwritten by sources other than the tech fee. If that helps at all. Lectures, mentoring, portfolio.
It would be fair to ask what from the fee supports ADP Pro and what is for the technology, because he's been pretty specific on the technology and the equipment and furniture, but all we see for ADP Pro is that they're in that salary line.
Like, wonder what the number breakdown is for that.
It seems very reasonable to ask.
Yeah.
And then you don't know.
I don't
Don't know.
No, I don't know about that. We've discussed it, but
Uh-huh.
I think we-
Not in lots of detail.
You're on the Google Drive, right? You can see this. Okay. Okay, the only, and the other, so we got those two questions. Any kind of other questions about, and I'm on that specifically?
How many students are in APD Pro?
Does it say in the thing?
He said total students.
I think 20 students.
700, number of students affected by the fee is 700,
Which is our total college.
which is your total college.
Yeah. I think they did it.
So number of students in APD Pro would probably be a good question.
Yeah.
So this is something you have to apply for?
Yes, this is so you have to go, your freshman year, you have to go to 5 professional lectures.
Okay.
And so they bring in people from different firms and stuff.
Okay.
And you have to go to these lectures, and they can be for different things.
So this program does not benefit the whole college, just benefits the people in this program, correct?
So you can go to those lectures.
Uh-huh.
You just won't get the mentorship if you don't go to all 5 lectures your freshman year,
Okay.
each semester. But you can still go to those lectures. It's not exclusive. The only exclusive part is the mentorship.
His lectures are also open to all students. 'Cause they're
Yeah.
by the program.
They are.
Another question I had was something that Dean did on the light. We had kind of talked about this in November, really just one-on-one, about sunsetting of the fee, which I think really is meant to, is that it's being incorporated into, I think that's kind of what, sorry, I'm at a loss for words. I can't exactly remember how they mentioned it. Says on page 23, page 9, any increase in technology fees beginning in the 2018-2019 academic year, as well as the current fee, will sunset with the adaptation of a new tuition model, resulting in financial support for our college, consumer with our growth. So, I didn't hear, it's one thing to sunset, and it's one thing to just kind of edit the way the fee is kind of presented, and so that's and I'm confused though, because initially when we talked about it, my thought was that the fee was going to sunset, and even if that wasn't what was presented, indeed, DeNoble was kind of he didn't want to say that was what he was presenting, but I think the question still remains, is that, if you had bought a lot of new technology with the fee, is there a need for that full $15 per credit hour once all the technology had been purchased? And there's some maintenance costs, of course, right? I totally understand that, and, needing that, but after that initial round of purchasing, is there a need for that full amount going forward? Does that question make sense?
So I thought it was addressed in some of the very in documents. I'm having a hard time trying to find it now, but because it wasn't, there was some wasn't the same. You know what I mean? Sort of information that the front taking us, because I think it talked about sunsetting. I think some of the students had asked questions, it seemed like at the end. And I think the description was something along the lines of it would probably be incorporated into some sort of differential tuition, sort of model.
There was it was in our student meeting, page 43.8. Their fee going away in 2 or 3 years, deciding on the fee under the impression that it's temporary and will go away when a fixed tuition model comes into play, somewhat false. The tech fee will be integrated into the new tuition model, just not as an additive. Dean Nobles is correct. Won't be something that can increase individually once it's integrated into a fixed tuition model. The college will have much more control over tuition as a whole. So I don't think it's not, like, my question is almost independent of this sunset comment. Just that whether you want to sunset it or not, is there a need for $15 per credit hour in additional money after you've made the initial round of purchases?
Well, and yeah, I'm sorry, I'm fighting with my computer at the moment, but is he proposing specific things over the next 3 years that he's wanting, or is he just saying, here are the things for the next year, trust me on the next 2?
As far as spending monies on
Spending the additional $15 credit hour.
Your question is he broken out what he wants to fund over each year? Is that your question?
So Jack's question deals with, once we buy it, is there going to be need for it going forward? And my question is, not having access to the proposal at the moment, has the dean outlined what he wants to do over each of those 3 years, or has he just outlined he wants to buy things in the first year, and then what's he going to do the next couple of years? I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so that page 4, talks about it. Computer equipment with $125,000 in fiscal year 19, and $120 in 21. I guess, with the exception of increases in staff salaries at the expense of, I don't know where that money's coming from. I guess they're overspending in 21. Anyway, 20 and 21 are the same allocation of the dollars. With computer equipment, software, supply, and only, it's only $50,000 of which goes to furniture.
So I don't seem to have the same page numbers you have, but I have the bound copy that he gave me.
It's the one on your left.
Okay,
Yeah.
so as I look at that, he's saying how much he's going to spend, over $1 million. Revenue, I'm thinking, from the fee is $700,000. So he's gonna have a deficit that first year, which is this year.
Yeah.
So next year, he'll have an additional almost $1 million of expenditures, but he'll have additional revenue and he'll come out about $15,000 ahead. Now, he's not telling you specifically he's gonna buy this type of furniture, but he does say over a period of 3 years, he'll have these types of expenditures. Student salaries, supplies, teaching supplies, etc.
You know what's meant by department allotment? Is that just distributions to departments within the college, or?
That's how I'm interpreting it, but that would be a good question.
Yeah. I know we kind of had this question last year when we were reviewing the fee, but I can't remember the answer to it. Is he's got that line in there for staff salary, but then at the very back he says that there's no faculty salaries on there. So I understand that there's a difference between faculty and staff, but I'd be curious to hear more about what exact faculty are on the fee, or will continue to be on the fee, or will be added because of the fee. I see it does increase a little bit each year. So
go down to the double asterisk.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the ADP Pro coordinator, the instructional technologist, teaching technician, graphic designer, blah, blah, blah. Those are all non-faculty positions.
okay. And so are all those currently hired positions right now? Okay, Nate's not even said yes. Awesome.
Yeah, he has it in the FY18 budget, and that's our current budget.
Which that's what's interesting is that it's like the numbers are, the total expenditure is not, it's higher in 18 than it is in 19. So some of that, you kind of got to look at what the fee is supporting something that maybe is not present now. That's not supposed to be a dig. I'm just like, what I'm saying? It's so with money, like, putting fee dollars towards faculty salary or staff salaries, only see a $20,000 increase, or 40, then a $63,000 increase. But that's like money that's not in the hole.
Yes.
That is in the hole in 18.
But you think of what the college, and you can speak to this even better than I can, what the college has done this year with opening the new building last fall. I mean, they couldn't wait to have the tables and the chairs and the things.
They were expensive, and I know we're still don't have enough.
Yeah.
So, like,
That's
we're
what
that
piece of paper's for.
Yes.
You can't explain that, right? There's no question about it. That's carry forward, one time, carry forward,
Yeah,
basically for equipment.
absolutely.
Yeah, one time items.
All right. Other questions? Sorry, I've kind of driven those first two.
So I guess I have a question about what fees are in general. Maybe this is more of a philosophical question. I believe the way that we look at fees at the university is we say we have existing fees, which currently in architecture I believe is at $40. And we're looking at specifically a new $15 a credit hour fee, which is supposed to fund new things, to my knowledge. So my challenge is this proposal is presented as here is this $55 credit hour fee and here's what it's going to fund. But we're not reviewing the other $40 a credit hour fee saying how is that doing, what's that going towards, because we already approved that. We're looking at the additional $15 a credit hour fee, and that's the challenge that I'm having looking at this. The only new thing that I see being added is this department allotment. Everything else just moves up and down by small little percentages. So, so I guess it's more of a philosophical, how are we supposed to be looking at this or encouraging CTC to be looking at it if it's presented in this way?
I might add to that there's also a significant increase in the computer equipment area.
Yeah.
Fiscal year 19.
So I think that I think is a pretty good holistic review. I think that what your point, Stephen, I fully understand what you're saying, that it's hard to evaluate what's new and what's not. But at the same time, I think that the very holistic way in which we're looking at the whole fee budget, right, with $925,000 or $950,000. I think that's, sorry, I think that's a good way to look at it, because you kind of see what are we doing now, and I think what's new is what we can't afford now, a $312,000 deficit, if you will, which I don't know how that works. I guess that has to come out of central money.
It's not a deficit.
That's
it's
one time.
carry forward.
That
That's
makes
what I was
sense.
trying to
Sorry.
explain,
That's what
make
you're
sure
saying.
we were all clear. So they have not been spending from the fee in anticipation of what's happening with the new building.
Gotcha.
If you think about where they've been, in that temporary location, so that's carry forward balance that they're carrying forward that was collected from the fees. And that's what they're using for that one-time expense because of the new building.
That makes sense.
An interesting question about that carry forward balance is what is that carry forward balance at this moment? Is it zero? Is there still some more that they're carrying over?
That's a good question.
Good question to ask, yeah.
Yeah, I was asking.
Cindy, you know what
I can look it up, but it's probably better to come from them.
you know what the size of their expenditures were in like fiscal year 16 and 17?
Size of their what? I'm sorry.
The expenditures from the fee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably more.
last year?
I think there should have been reports from last year, because I think that,
Okay, yeah.
so you really need to look in our archives. Because, yes, it was reviewed, and And if I recall, the dean held any increases on this fee while they were fundraising until he was confident that we were gonna be able to do the project.
Get into the new building and need this additional equipment. In fact, I can't tell you, I can't quote you how many years ago, but the students had approved this additional $15 increase, but he held it because they weren't moved, they didn't see yet that they were gonna be in the new building.
I remember he said I can't justify having folks that are at Seton West
Yes.
or whatever we call that.
Which was a
Paying
which was a nice way of saying
at the airport, yeah.
So Nate, is this the only credit hour fee coming, that architecture has at the moment is the $40 tech fee?
I believe so, yeah.
It is. I brought the scheduled charges, just in case there's questions on
Yeah.
fees, so I can have it
That's
all right
helpful.
here.
That's very helpful.
Yes, $40.
All right. What other questions we have? And like I said, I think this is good because this is a good opportunity to try to get. So, Cindy, one of the questions that came up before you got here is, why are we going through and looking at these fee proposals, even though it's the job of the CTC? Because I want to make sure that if there are concerns that exist in here, the CTC is able to address them. Like,
That makes sense.
okay, yeah. Just because what I don't want, candidly, so we don't want to happen is we're sitting here in April saying we don't think the CTC did their job because they didn't address this one point this concern that I had.
So someone's keeping track then, and that will be shared?
Oh, right here.
Right there, perfect.
You submitted all in there.
And then that will be shared with the college team. Sounds good.
And we'll give this to the deans so that, they can present that to the college tuition committees.
And we added one question, Cindy, to the list of questions that they sent earlier, and that's what other options were considered or explored, and why did you opt for the fee to pay for these things, which I think is a good question.
Beyond revenue, I think, because that's what I was.
Yes.
I was so driven on
Yeah.
how else you got to raise money, but what could you do internally?
Yeah.
Are there any other questions about the APD fee? It's engineering time.
Not bad. Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bad time.
Oh,
That's very funny. Sorry.
So the questions that we just,
What's going on?
so the questions we gathered will also be sent with the questions that they're going to be expected to answer to CTC.
Yep.
So those are all
Standard questions plus those bad boys
Okay, then I won't cover same ground.
for.
Questions that were already in that document that it's asked for that, such as, are there additional money set?
Yep, and that's what they will be asked to answer those, present that as well. All right, so just another thing, Provost Mason, and Cindy, we were waiting until you were here to talk about engineering, because one of our questions that came up was, is this, the way it's presented is as a college fee, but will there be like spending limitations for the college based on where the fee dollars originated? So, sorry, like, that was confusing. Like, will we be able to spend more than what chemical engineering students have raised?
So the way that it's structured now, and we can put some things in place, but right now, all the revenue goes into one account.
Okay.
And so, I was looking, I reviewed these very quickly, and I know there's one also for programs and where we're trying to really restrict. And so we may need to explore if we want to have the revenue go directly and track it outside of the college, even more specifically into department. Is that kind of the question? Are we able to know revenue down to a departmental level?
Well, yes, that is helpful, especially if but I think my question, maybe it's not the same thing as everybody else's, but is, can you, if the money's going into the college, is the college determining how that money is spent, or is truly only the credit hour production driving where the money is spent within the college?
So the revenue gets deposited in the college determines how it expends those funds.
Gotcha.
then I think then there's a review, that there's no one watching it at the time. No audit's being done at this point.
So one of the points that was brought up before is the benefits to the college were definitely marketed to each department specifically, and the individual departments were surveyed, which has led to some confusion on whether or not this was more departmental, as in credit hour fee raised by chemical engineering was just impacting chemical engineering, or whether or not it's a college fee.
So I don't mean to open a can of worms, but I will, because my concern with the way it was presented in the departments is that the biological and agricultural engineering department is not very big.
I have a question about that. ATM majors are like in the College of Agriculture. Is it because they take some BAE classes that they were also surveyed?
I believe so.
I texted Will, but I didn't know if anyone else would know that.
I believe so, because they take a lot of the,
Well, there's a lot of overlap.
yeah. So that was the only reason I chose BAE is because it's a small department.
Yeah.
BAE would not raise very much money. I think we figured out it was like $35,000 or something like that. Like with a $15 per credit hour fee, like BAE would raise $35,000. And so I asked Dean Dawson that in a chemical engineering forum, and he said you should ask questions about chemical engineering, which was fair. Which was fair. I was utilizing it.
There you go.
Whatever. So anyway, but his point though, he also answered the question though and said that there's other sources. This could help fund a faculty line for that program. So I mean, honestly, and I think that's one of the things that is tough, and that's kind of a toss up, and that's honestly something that I want the CTC to really weigh in on it, to make the decision on, is would you rather have college be able to be very strategic with where they're spending their money, or where the students are paying goes to where the money is being spent? Does that make sense? Like, if a college is really needing faculty here but not there, is it better to have the college be able to decide that, or is it better for the college to have spent the money where the fees were generated? But as far as I'm concerned, that's not what we're doing anymore. This is the individualized outreach, but I mean, I'm reading this fee proposal as college-wide.
And Jonathan was asked specifically at Faculty Senate, was this a departmentally based or college-based? And he exchanged glances with me, and I answered the question. I said it was college-based because I asked the dean to tell me what he was going to hire. And his first response was, well, I need to meet with the department heads and determine. Well, yeah, I understand that. But chemical engineering, computer science, what's it going to be used for? And I pressed him to do that.
And the answer is there on page 7.
Yeah.
And it's good one. ARE, chemical, MSc, M&E. Yeah, I mean, it's all
Okay,
listed there.
so in terms of questions, like I've noticed that for every department, there's been a drop of enrollment from 16 to 17.
Okay.
Can you ask him to address that? And what I guess he sees projections being for the fall 2018 class? Because for me, it doesn't look like there's one. It doesn't look like there's one program, at least from, because information's inconsistent, but it doesn't look like there's any programs that saw an increase from 16 to 17.
From academic year 16-17 to
17.
academic year 17-18. You are correct. They've been going like this, and then in this academic year, our current one, they went down.
Which I know the university saw that.
Yeah.
Hasn't the college relatively been immune from that drop until this academic year?
Until this academic year, and there are a number of reasons for that. They were dying with the increases they had, and you've got 3 majors in here that can tell you about that. They were growing. They had exceeded the UEIA, the University Engineering Initiative Act. Thank you. We have 4. So that they deliberately slowed down some because they were going too fast.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you maybe
So
ask
yes,
them?
they did decrease in enrollment. You're absolutely right. You saw that.
Well, the new freshman I know was one of the bigger decreases on the 20-day numbers.
Absolutely. They'd overshot their estimates of growth for the UEIA year after year.
Yeah.
Funding,
Yeah.
positions, faculty.
I'm just making a list of questions and I'll send it to you. They're sort of.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll say there are more, but so based off of that, like I would want the College of Engineering to talk about why, if it describe the enrollment decline over this last year, factors that they think contributed to it, specifically talking about the role that cost of attendance might have played in that decrease.
It's a very fair question. I'm not sure the dean can answer it.
Let's say, because we get asked the same question universally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, why did we all go down? I
I
mean,
think we
why
are.
did the campus go? It's a very fair question. I'm not sure he
Yeah.
says, I don't know. Though there, and Heather knows this, or anecdotal evidence that, cost might have had something to do with it, but in terms of real data, I'm not sure anybody could tell you. I can't tell you that.
Is Huron looking at that
Yes.
though, to try to help
Yes.
us understand?
Yes, and in a
So
conversation I
hopefully
had,
we'll have at least some data.
It'd be interesting for them to be.
yeah, in a conversation, that too. In a conversation I had with Dean Clark, he at least seemed to have a thought out answer that I think could
Maybe. Okay, perfect.
could be helpful. If people are gonna have to weigh the validity and what they think of it.
That's what I said. I think it's a very fair question. Maybe they have more data than I realized.
All right. Other questions, engineering feeding?
He was asking about the Huron report. It will be released around May.
Yes.
Is that the guy? And then
Yes.
something I'm assuming will be public. I mean,
Yes.
it will be something.
Yes. And we were just talking about that today. It came up again in Faculty Senate. We have a report out that Huron's going to do on a smaller basis, the steering committee, but then we're hoping that they will come back after we've had time to digest this. This is going to be a lot for us to be thinking through. And then talk to groups, Faculty Senate, the Dean's Council, the Cabinet more broadly. I don't know the timing. I would love for SGA to be around. I don't know if it'll be into late May or whatever, but we'll see. We want to share. This is kind of a funky thing, and very honestly, I had to be told this. There's certain things in the Huron report we will want to put out. We have a website if you want to go look at the current status of our Huron consultants. There are other things, and if Dr. Bosco was here, he would tell you, of course, there are other things you don't want to put out there on your website because your competitors are looking at it. You want to say, well, this is my strategy for recruiting students and so
paying for it.
so we have to be a little careful with it. And it's a competitive business, and I guess I hated to even say those two words together, but
That's up to
Other engineering questions?
I'm going to skip back to enrollment management. If there's a way that a copy of the report and maybe a briefing can be given to this next year's tuition fee strategies committee, I think that would be very valuable.
a year from now,
Yeah.
that's very fair.
I think
maybe
it's very
next fall, when you're starting out, that could be a good topic.
Yes.
Whoever's going to be chair.
It's kind of sad. We trust every vote. Dan, more? Okay, other engineering questions?
For the positions that they're allocating, is that in order of what they would be doing? I'm assuming so it's not alphabetical.
Yes, in terms of need, as it's identified now.
And are those a list of departments? Because I'm not familiar with the with abbreviations.
Yeah.
So are there any departments in that are being left out?
BAE, IONA,
Just that?
1, 2,
there's 27.
say, yeah, then only one.
Just BAE is left out. So maybe a question on that would be, what potential benefit, is there anything that's going to BAE for the credit hour fees that they are paying in on this?
Well, that's kind of with our first question is
Okay.
how you slice and dice this whole thing.
Well, that's just a little bit more specific. It might hopefully get an answer.
You know, the fee goes on. These are the needs he sees today. Who knows what they will be, you know, could be BAE later. Yeah.
I guess one question I have too on the order he presented them in. So on some of them I see a justification header, but others I don't. So I guess I'm just kind of wondering why he's ordering those in that way. And I'm sure if you read through them, you could probably get that, but it's kind of hard to jump around between all of them without knowing.
Are you talking about the department specific proposal? Where's the okay, I see.
Yeah, like down, like the list on the 7th page, was it?
Yeah.
Sorry, the list on the 7th page of the different ones that they're doing in order, just kind of maybe a synopsis of justification as to why that's ordered, because if you scroll down and look at each one of them, you can read a little bit, but there's some justifications and some not in other departments. So just kind of maybe clarifying why it was, like what types of inputs they went over that.
Because I kind of thought that I chalked that up to, I could be wrong, I want to discuss it. I kind of chalked that up to just that each department chair had put that together. So like, well, my department chair had written justification, like I noticed that not everybody had. Like, I don't know if it changes the meat of the proposal, but like I said, I could be wrong, right? If you're thinking it does, that's.
No, my question is just like, what's his justification as a dean
overall.
perspective of why he ranked them a specific way? Like, what is he drawing from each department as to why he ordered them? I'm also personally interested because computer science was last, so.
So if you go back, and I don't have it with me or completely in my head, but if you go back, he did have them identified, and CS they did a lot of hiring in that area because that was the first stretch point. Then they had to back off a year because they weren't able to hire this year. He canceled all the hires this year when the fee was not. So it may be that we're just getting to the other areas that CS was taking care of first.
And that could definitely be it. I just would like
But that's a good question.
Are you asking about the order of all the detail under the department? Or on the table?
No, the order of the hires on page 7.
I think the other is just alphabetical.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Pure science can't always be first.
That was a joke. I just genuinely want to know.
No, I'm also curious because.
So are you asking, maybe is this list on page 7 in order of priority?
So that's Provost Mason said, confirm that it is enlisted of priority. My question is, what's the justification of that priority?
Okay, I just want to make sure this was the list.
No, that's a good question.
I can definitely see what you just mentioned being the case, but.
And then he says, fall enrollment numbers and or reduction of faculty due to retirement or attrition could change the plan. So.
All right. My question is rather aggressive, but I think it's a good conversation to have. beyond a faculty to student ratio, what is the need for additional faculty? And I know that a ratio is more than just a number. I totally understand that. But what I want to know is what's the tangible benefit to the student that's paying this? And so to go back to last year, I think that's what was unique about business, is we all could see that we needed to hire a business law professor because students could not take, were not qualified to sit for the CPA after graduation. That was important to me to know. So we'll work on the wording of that one. But does that question kind of check out?
I guess mine's more debate like for.
I'll say that's what that was too.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like at this point last year, I've heard a lot more from my friends in engineering about how crappy it is in terms of the sequence of everything, how full everything is. And so I don't know. I'll be interested to hear his personal testimony, I guess, for the fee, because I've sure heard a lot more than I did last year on college engineering stuff.
Like too many students in a class.
Too many
That they're
students
just
in a
not getting
class,
the
and not enough class offerings.
Yeah.
Affects
their graduation.
Like the flow charts for me, it's like it's a year back. Like a class that we're on the flow chart take junior year, you can't get in until you're a senior.
Yeah.
That's a huge issue.
That's why he's
Right.
submitting this.
I have 4 friends staying a fifth year because I have no choice.
Yeah.
And that
They had the bandwidth to take extra classes, but the College of Engineering
Didn't
didn't
have
have
the
the availability. Yeah.
So
When
is
you
it-
grow as fast as they grew because of the UEIE,
Yeah.
they just haven't been able to hire enough people to do it.
Which is almost like in some ways, while the growth has been good for the university and good for the state, it's been in
Been
some ways
hard on them.
bad for students because their classes have gotten bigger, the flow chart's gotten uglier, and they're at a capacity that's like just not, I don't think enjoyable for anyone over there. But,
Good for tuition, but I agree. I agree with that.
Well, I mean, and remember, this isn't going to support the total university. It's getting vested back in to arts and sciences and engineering. So, I mean, I'm not sure any of us would really agree that it's beneficial to the university necessarily, other than meeting our legislative mandate of graduating engineers.
And I don't know if this is the appropriate arena to ask him, but I just like the 3-5 for a scholarship, and a lot of the tactics of the College of Engineering right now seem bait and hook to get students here and to get them in the program, and it's like, I don't know.
So I wish Dr. Bosco was here because that's not an engineering thing.
I know it's not.
It's across the university thing.
I know it's
And then it's
really
funding.
complex, but
I mean,
But
if
yeah.
you lower it,
Yeah.
we gotta find the dollars.
oh no,
So it's.
I know. It's very complex.
And I think it's interesting. I'm curious to see what the different turnouts of the CTC are because, for here in Olivia and I, we talked about this and whenever the whole Department of Fee thing came out, because Olivia was like, well, I really have seen this challenge in computer science. And I'm like, I'm in a course of 40 students that's taught by 2 tenured faculty members, team teaching a course. I'm like, wow, we do not need another faculty member, as far as I'm concerned. Granted, perspective of me in lab-based classes that are
You have to see their
one-on-one.
You have to see their low.
Absolutely, absolutely.
They could be team teaching it because it's benefit to you guys.
Right.
Things, so
No, I totally agree. That's my experience. And that's how I
So it sounds as though engineering was not prepared for the overwhelming number of students who came here. Their hiring didn't match it at the same time. Speaking to your point, Trenton, you said you've not been hearing from students this year as much as last year, people not being able to get into classes.
No, I said more this year than last year.
You are hearing more?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my point.
Okay,
So
my question was okay, that's sort of answered. Students are not able to get into their courses for junior until senior year and have to stay next year.
So ask any one of the engineering students here how many courses in engineering they took their freshman and sophomore years.
I'm sorry, I didn't take anything.
One, yeah. So you
maybe
brought in a
3.
whole bunch of engineering students 2, 3, 4 years ago. They're getting into their engineering courses now, as Olivia's saying.
That's when the delay happens.
Yeah, their courses the first 2 years are in arts and sciences.
No. Sarah.
I have another question about the ATM BAE thing I've been reading. So it says that all courses marked ATM get charged an engineering fee. I know we talked about having this tuition being more clear for students. Do students coming in ATM understand they're paying an engineering fee and not an ag fee?
Because you're only
For those
For the
ATM
ATM classes.
They're getting charged the engineering fee for ATM classes.
And over the course of an ATM degree, you're only taking like 3 BA
classes. But I read here that if it says ATM in front of the course number, it is charged through engineering.
Do the students understand that those are courses provided from the College of Engineering, from engineering faculty?
I'm sure they understand.
I mean, that would.
Yeah, but I'm saying we're trying to make it more clear for incoming students. Do they understand the difference if they're in that major? Does that make sense?
And that's the
Wait.
advisors and.
So as an ATM major, if I asked you what college are you in, what do you tell me?
College of Ag.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would be like our ed students taking business courses.
Yeah.
Do they understand that
Yeah.
when they take that finance course, that
Well,
they're gonna have to pay the
But
fee? I mean,
most of the
it's complex. I mean, anytime.
but
you
most
cross
of their
over-
classes do say ATM in the front, and so
So Sarah, can I ask
Yeah.
a quick clarifying question? So like, I think it's ATM 450, BAE 350. It's the same class, same lecture. Everybody in the same room.
they all get
If-
charged engineering.
They all get charged the engineering fee.
Even if they have the
Regardless
ATM
if
call
it's-
sign?
Mm-hmm. It
That-
says here in his thing, it says,
Yeah, that sounds like something that at least needs clarification.
it says 50 per credit hour fee added for all BAE in agricultural technology management, ATM prefix, departmental courses. The fee is charged to them. It's
You
on,
want a page?
yeah, page 10. It's proposal. It explains that BAE and ATM prefixes are both charged from engineering.
We got to pause for 2 seconds. Tracy Mann was just announced the Lieutenant Governor of Kansas. Tracy Mann is former student body president.
Yeah.
Incredible human being. He spoke at our SJ banquet last year, if anybody remembers that. And he just got announced. So
Say the name again.
Tracy Mann.
MANN?
Yep.
Rumor was Jackie McCloskey.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
I got anxious and texted her today.
That was-
I said, "Are you the big announcement at 7?" She said, "No, but you'll know who it is."
oh! Well, that's exciting.
That is exciting.
I wonder what year.
So I have a question now.
Yeah.
I answer them, sorry.
No, I just read this, so I think I understand it right, but
So
that's
do
what
you,
I'm asking.
on an ATM BAE course, then are you paying the engineering fee and?
You shouldn't be
I'm
paying both.
assuming you're only
College.
paying engineering.
Okay,
Yeah.
so well, that's my question.
I wish Will was here because he's an ATM major.
I can ask the financial services office. I'm assuming it's based upon the course numbering, and somehow it's designated through.
Well,
the
it says any
college, so-
prefix ATM is.
Yeah, so you must not have that prefix in any ag.
No, we
Right,
don't.
so that
Okay.
must make it
Okay.
unique, and
That's-
that's, and
And you said this, I think, how many courses do you take in engineering in ATM?
Well, ATM is considered engineering for the fee part of it,
but it's still a major in ag.
but it's a major in ag.
So
So
your
the
question
total
is,
from-
do those students know
Yeah,
when they're considering an ATM,
that they're going to be
Degree.
paying fees for the College of Engineering
Great
rather than
question.
fees for the College of Ag.
Or like
Great
if they're
question.
budgeting for the next year, like where
Yes.
is this not just on page 10 of the dean's proposal?
Yes. Yeah, got it.
I mean, that's.
I mean, it makes sense that they're paying engineering because they're probably all engineering instructors, but do they know coming in as a College of Agriculture student?
But that's not a unique issue. I mean, it really isn't. And one of the things we're looking at is trying to put a schedule. So parents or students can, like, here's my schedule. I may take a political science course,
Well, yeah.
then I'm gonna have arts and sciences. And I mean, so that's what makes it so complex when we have it by the college. It's very difficult to project out. I mean, we've been struggling with this, trying to be more transparent and be more helpful to parents for the past year, trying to figure out how we can put information out on a webpage to help students. And, now we're like, okay, what if we put the schedule on, your bill? You can see these are the courses you're taking, so you can at least understand why that fee is assessed, because I'm in this course with this college, and And if anyone has any other ideas, please visit with me because we are open.
That's something that the College of Ed did a focus group led by Dean Mercer, and one of the questions they asked for secondary ed, they're like, do you have too many content area classes? Because for me, half my class I had to take are arts and sciences for social studies. So like even though the College of Ed doesn't have a fee, anything that's arts and science related, it affects me because it has half my load. So that's what she asked us, like, is that she asked us, do we think that's restricting people from becoming education majors because they don't want to pay for this fee at K-State when they can go to Florida State, Pitt State, and get an education degree for a third of the price. So.
Hospitality management students have to take business courses, so the same thing. You don't take all your courses within your college.
It's just that ATM is so many if that's your major. It's more than just,
Yeah.
4
or 5. It's all
Most of your classes are
Good question.
ATM.
That's
I'm sorry I wasn't on
that's Dean Clark's area, so he may well know the answer to your question. Yeah.
I have one more question that I'm trying to find it online, so I don't know how relevant this may be to ask Dean Dawson if we can find it. But how much has like the engineering fees? I just can't remember from 2014. How much has it increased to now? Like within like a 4, like a 4-year time span for students.
$45.
It's increased to 40 because it's been 15.
So 15, 30, 0, and then.
Yeah. That's right. The 30 and then that's right.
I guess one question with that, this is kind of a broad question, but with that, because it's been growing so much, and I know Trent kind of touched on it with like scholarships, and those are all university wide. I guess, has there been any specific like tangible effort into tapping into dollars for specific like needs-based scholarships within engineering? And I know they do a good job at handing out scholarships. I mean, they give it to the department, but I think since it's just exponentially increased so much during like, just for example, since my freshman year to now, and it's kind of been because they overshot and didn't catch up with it. That's kind of unfair to students if they're not really being intentional about who they're trying to keep here, if that makes sense.
So I think your question is a good one for him. I think they have, but he can give you very specific examples of how they have tried to get need-based scholarships.
Yeah.
The good thing or the bad thing about engineering is you've got a lot of Putnam scholars in the college. And a lot of the money that they have raised for scholarships is being used to pay for the Putnam scholarships. Previous.
A lot of colleges.
Yeah.
I know the College of Human Ecology, almost all our scholarships are like 52 Putnam.
Yeah.
No scholarships
Yeah.
and things.
90%.
Almost all.
90% of the budget.
I'm gonna let you stab on that on the Google Doc if you want to.
Okay.
Because I think that's a good. I think that's a.
It
I'm
is a
just
good
trying
question.
to condense it to like a question.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like it's like
That's what I was gonna say. It's like,
5.
you got it.
Now we're trying to, we have addressed that. It used to be that, Dr. Bosco's office gave the first year of the Putnam, and the other 3 years, depending on what college you went to, that was the college's bill. Now we're splitting it.
Yeah.
So we've tried to deal with it, but
That'll be fiscal year 19, right?
pardon me?
That change will be fiscal year
Right,
19.
Right.
Correct.
I think arts and sciences too got hit really hard with
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Struggled, so.
Yeah, arts and sciences couldn't cope, engineering couldn't cope. Architecture is not going to be impacted too much by this change. Human ecology is impacted, yeah.
We were not making a commentary.
Oh, yeah, no. I just had a conversation with Lynn over in the office. And it's like, this change is not going to significantly help us or anything. So.
Alrighty. Okay, other questions, engineering. We gotta move on to human ecology, if so.
I would ask real quick, like, what their long-term goals are. Are they trying to continue to grow their enrollment or maintain? Because I feel like if they want to keep growing, just throwing faculty members isn't the solution.
That's a good idea. So what are the objectives for academic year 18? What are the long-term projections and or planning for enrollment? That's a good question.
Because at some point they'll come into new space and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
New space.
Because that's one of the things they said. I mean, that's what Dean Dawson kind of said, or Dean Clark kind of said. We are capped at 4,000 physically.
Yeah.
So.
And I kind of have a question with that too. I know that Dean Dawson has talked about like qualified admissions and different things that are going to be changed if our enrollment continues to increase. So I guess I have the question, like with that long-term plan, like, are we going to compensate by like, you know, making it more and more difficult to become a student in the College of Engineering?
I mean, we know how Dean Dawson feels about excellence, at least from last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good question to ask. How do you manage that?
They have something already. I don't know if you know that or not.
Yeah, I do.
So I know that it was approved through faculty senate, so I saw, I don't think it was unreasonable. You know what I mean? They kind of had data, support what they were doing and things, so there's some of that already in place.
I also hope that our Huron consultants help us with our size. I mean, they were looking at capacity. Boy, it's never been my thought that we just can continue to grow, because that really does put some constraints on us. But then how do you tamp back that growth is what you're asking, which is a good question.
Yeah. All right. Other engineering questions? Human ecology questions. And I think that it's come up already. I want to reiterate. View this as two separate fees, although only one college tuition committee. My initial thoughts is I had started a couple things on page 9, which talks about hiring the GTA and then the halftime instructor. I think that's a good plan to, make do with relatively small amount of money.
Are you on the PFP or the?
PFP, sorry.
Okay.
I was gonna say, what are the pages?
Yeah, I don't see
Did you add those to ours?
So I added those later. And
Oh!
So that was the group I sent you.
That was a great idea.
Okay.
So I can resend those out to everybody. That's not an issue.
You're special, Jack.
I was gonna say,
I didn't think I thought about it as I was looking through them. I was like, well, I'll add those real quick. And so
That's a great idea.
So Jonathan, I'd buy him a soda if he put page number on my documents, and he said he would, so. That's right.
We'll know next time. Bribe.
You're bribing
Bring
me.
it.
All right. Other thoughts, questions, I guess. First on the personal financial planning.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'm just a little bit lost here because it says $20 credit hour fee, but then on page 10 and page 9, it seems to be talking about this year 1, 2, 3 on page 10 says like $20, $35, $50. So I guess first of all, what are they requesting?
They're requesting $20. That's what,
One year at a time, right?
1 year at a time. We are not gonna even, if you wanna look at the projections for 2 to 3, that's
okay,
great.
Okay, so they're talking about subsequent increases, but we're only looking at the $20 for the 1 year, which is a like halftime instructor and a grad assistant.
yeah,
Right.
Yep, for the first year.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to pull future things so that the CTC does not even look at them.
I think it's good to know where
Yeah.
where you're shooting, but I think this is.
I think it adds a little bit of context specifically to how they're shuffling between instructor and grad assistant to what their end goal is, hopefully. I mean, arguably we only choose the one year, but it's good to see that they have a long-term strategy for this.
I just think it's comical that one of the letters of support is from a wealth management firm supporting a fee increase on behalf of a wealth management firm. It's just optics are interesting.
That's why I'm saying.
That's what their students go and do.
I know, but it's like,
That's why I pointed it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I guess I'll.
And it's the pricing for it. It's not like
I don't know if you guys are interested in seeing more detailed like enrollment. I didn't feel like this had as much detailed enrollment data, as maybe others did, I guess, and things like trends and all that sort of stuff. But
Just curious how many were in their program.
I mean, they say, but you don't really have any sort of context on how that compares. You know what I mean, I guess, because, I mean, our college is dropped. You know what I mean? And so I don't know how they fit within that
So-
context. And things.
Faculty student ratios maybe, for department and for college maybe. Unless I'm missing that in here, and I totally could be.
They claim to be one of 4 programs that shows consistent growth within the college.
That's physiology.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
So,
So we always ask that too.
I thought she mentioned it in the justification.
I mean, she says up front, number of students impacted 215 undergrads and grad majors and 200 undergrad and grad non-majors is what it says up front.
Consistent enrollment increase since 2015. Yeah. All right.
I would just comment that we have, this may be difficult to assess. We're gonna have to figure out how we would do this. We would wanna make sure the college works with financial services well in advance, so we can figure this out, because it's.
Right.
This is the first time it's been within a college. This is within a school, a particular program within the school. So
I mean, the college of business did it, but it's all of our
Everybody.
students. That,
Yeah.
now we're doing micro, so it's like, I don't know how we do this, but we can figure it out.
And it's just PFP prefixes, right?
I was thinking it was program not related to a course.
Because it,
Question.
I thought it had to be prefixes because it was
prefix.
So you think it's any student who takes their courses?
Well, because it's
program.
That would be consistent with the college fees.
Because don't they take a lot of college? Isn't there a decent amount of overlap between the college and
Absolutely.
business?
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're already paying in college fees in
And doesn't it
business.
mention that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot.
They use it as
kind of
comparatives.
correlate, yeah.
Right.
That's that chart that Stephen was just looking at.
So maybe double check this prefix. Provost Mason, could you maybe speak to maybe why this is the first time we are seeing departmental fees and like your rationale behind allowing this one to go through as departmental, not college?
Yeah, I will, and I appreciate the question. The reason being, and we heard about kinesiology last year, a department within the college that was increasing in size and with real constraints on the faculty-student ratio, and we'll talk about that in a minute. This is a program that's kind of a niche program within the school, and the other programs within the school don't have, quite honestly, 100% placement of their students and a pretty high relative starting salary. Such that you can get a letter from a wealth management firm supporting it. It is tricky. But like the College of Arts and Sciences, the College of Human Ecology has some very different majors in it.
Yeah.
And the School of Family Studies and Human Services is diverse within it. You've got marriage and family therapy, you have PFP, you have early childhood development, you have all sorts of things, all within that one school. And this is Brian's thing.
Education sciences and disorders.
That's right.
And all this sort of stuff. So, I mean, I'm in that college, so I can say that when the fee was not approved last year, they've mostly gone back, and there's not been a lot of college discussion. It's been mostly focused at department levels. I'm in my departments. If I wasn't in my department, there might be one sitting here, from my department, as an example. So I mean, there's some of that also is going into kind of each unit looking at their budget and what things look like there, whether they feel like it justifies putting forward some sort of proposal. And so there's not been much college discussion and things like this.
Questions? PFP? All right. Questions for physiology? I love this idea about.
Was that a victory lap?
Wanted to see you one more time.
Bless you.
I like the idea of the three different concentrations. That's kind of an interesting point.
I think you need to provide more detail on what those
Concentrations
are
look
going
like.
to entail, because they have a lot of pre-health professional students already, and so how is that any different than what's being provided already?
Well, and how would that
Yeah.
be impacted by this? No, because of these instructors would take over those courses in those programs, I assume. Cindy, can you maybe speak to what the current hour fee is in the College of Human Ecology right now?
Yes, it is $20.
It's 20.
This is 15. Yeah. My page 15, I don't know what page that is for everybody else, but hiring junior instructors, and I like it. They talk about exactly what the instructors are going to teach.
Yeah, this is something that I felt like the second proposal did so well that I'm still having a bit of trouble sorting out what the first proposal, like the marriage, family,
Personal family planning.
personal family planning.
Might involve marriage, but not for everybody.
Yeah, our partnerships, whatever.
This,
Let's go to arrangements.
Took that a second.
yeah,
Okay, so maybe the personal financial planning thing, just maybe asking them to be more specific. I guess they are specific, you just have to really dig around for it.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I think it's the commentary is kind of interesting that you put all the comments in here. As far as the why you like it, it's like more flexibility. I like that. I feel like everything on here is talking about the reasons why you didn't support it were costs. I don't want another fee. We already have high fees. There's an article on the back page, question 11, that talks about the page long, or the half page long one, talking about budget cuts and everything. It's a good read.
Very inconsiderate, blatantly disrespectful.
Sounds like an email I would get. I'm just not to spread the love.
I like the one right below
So,
I hate contrast there.
okay. Something that we heard from College of Engineering, I don't know how we're going to question this. Something we heard from College of Engineering is people aren't graduating because they can't get into classes what they need to. I'm reading one of these comments and it says, I like the idea of bettering our resources, but I feel the resources I've been given are more than sufficient. So maybe if we can ask some sort of a probing question as to, I don't know if we have human ecology representing the room at the moment, but okay, awesome.
Say good evening.
But like, what is the experience of students? Is it like, are they not able to get into courses, or would this just help more class offerings, or what's the situation of the students now, and what's the tangible benefit other than there are more instructors? From your friends, are you hearing? What are you hearing about?
Well, personally, I'm in FAFSA education, so there's 50 of us in the entire university. So I don't have a problem getting into my classes. But I don't really know exactly. I haven't heard complaints or good things. You know what I mean? It's just a mix. Yeah.
I just have one perspective. My daughter's in kinesiology, so it's not
Yes.
really good. But she has not had any trouble getting into classes, but she does rave about her faculty. And she's a tough cookie. I mean, she's picky. And so I just know she did come home and talked about this, and they talked to the students. She was, very supportive for what it's worth. But I think she's had a very positive experience with it.
I think some of the questions you already brought up, what's the faculty to student ratio? What's
got that in
the movement through the system are you finding? Yeah, so those are great questions. And then I think it's been brought up before, what are other alternative ways of moving students through and getting the courses covered that don't require you guys are all reading the comments.
Yeah, those sorts of questions.
Yeah.
And maybe not such at a department level, maybe more
Classic.
college. You know what I mean? That what sort of solutions were discussed in a more large beyond.
So you're looking at.
Yeah.
What sort of challenges are students, what sort of challenges are students facing or opportunities lost?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a
Privilege, but it's misspelled.
Discard it. If you can't spell it right.
We'll go back.
Yeah,
to
I meant later, like just.
Okay.
That makes
Spell check is my biggest friend.
All right, folks. 5 more minutes. 2 more minutes. 3 more minutes. Maybe. Other questions for kinesiology? A question for kinesiology?
I have one question, probably for, I guess, the whole College of Human Ecology. And I guess I probably already know part of the answer. But with one department going up $50 over 3 years, another one asking for a $20, or there's currently a $20 credit, but the other one's asking for another 20 or 15. There seems to be like a real imbalance between a lot of the programs in terms of resources. And so I'd be interested to hear that addressed specifically. So I know they talked about, last year there was, of course, the college-wide fee, but I'd be interested to hear what other discussions have taken place or ideas that have been floated to address that.
So just an example from another university at another time. I was a dean of a college very similar to human ecology. We had everything from social work and a school of education. We didn't have a college of education. We had a school of education all the way to construction management. And our construction management program was over 1,200 students and growing. And we weren't giving them enough resources. So we instituted a fee for just the Department of Construction Management. And we, you in engineering know your colleagues in that department go out these days and are getting pretty good jobs. So we instituted that, but we sure as heck weren't going to institute a fee on social work and school of ed within the same college. So we put the resources to a particular group because it needed them, but I think you need the dean to explain that.
Yeah.
Why does kinesiology need these resources and PFP even within a department? PFP is one unit within a school. So it's done, but I think there needs to be good explanation and justification for it.
Absolutely. All right. I know, Olivia, you have an engineering question. Just want to address, got halfway through our agenda. The other 2 things we can discuss, especially if we can't quite make it. Both the fee process work for next week, so we'll be back to you as soon as we can. But just a quick note about the review process. Jonathan and I had a chance to meet with Provost Mason and Dean Gwinner 2 weeks ago, I guess. And one of the questions we talked about, basically what we discussed in this room about the use of an internal audit on a 3-year basis. And, after kind of discussing things with Provost Mason and with Dean Gwinner, I guess it was kind of a conversation about how maybe an audit was not the most effective way to get the information that we were looking for. That might be better information coming from the deans. Now, because an audit really, and if you look through, I'd encourage you to look through a proof fee audit. This is a very interesting word to use, I guess. It's like the most vaguely specific thing I've ever seen. Like where it addresses like specific things, but it's definitely not as broad scope. Where's the money coming in? Where's it going out? As I think it needs to be for our purposes. It's not itemized. That's a really good way to put it. It's not itemized. I'm not looking for every single receipt, right? But like in general, categorically speaking, it's not. I mean, it's not. I don't know if it gets us the information we want.
One of the things that we talked about is because the fees go into a particular account, we can say there were this many student credit hours taken and the money went into this account. So it's just for illustrative reasons, we'll put $100,000 in this account. At the end of the year, you can say, how did you spend that $100,000? I hired 2 graduate assistants, I bought 17 computers, I did whatever. It doesn't feel like an internal audit to me. I mean, a nutrition professional could do this. It's not that hard. And I missed your discussion at the meeting when you talked about internal audit. So I'm just looking at Cindy because we haven't been able to touch base on this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not unlike how it came up was through the privilege fees. And that right now internal audit does a review. And and I can share the report that they submit out so you can get kind of an idea of what they're looking at. But, and help me if I heard share. But they're looking at what the intent of the revenue was being spent on, and are they complying with that? So they're going to look at like object codes and then figure out this much for salaries and things like that, and just kind of say, yes they did or no they didn't. I mean, so it's. So I didn't see any red flags because we're already had them out with the privilege fees. And to me, this is tracked in separate accounts, so you would easily be able to review it and. Or if they're not doing that, we can make sure it is stuff in separate accounts. So, yeah, but I mean, I was concerned with the staffing and having the resources and able to do it.
That was my other concern that I shared with Jack is that, when a dean turns over, I try to have an internal audit done at the college so that the new dean comes in and they know their books are on. And we're backed up because of internal audit. And that's not because they're not working hard. They're working as hard as they can. So I thought, now we're going to have them audit this. That was another concern.
Well, and you may not be aware, but student SGA pays them for doing these audits because
I became aware of that.
I shared the statistic last time we reviewed our contract.
And so the audits we were discussing would be just over the credit hour fee, not over the entire college's budget.
Oh, yes, correct.
Yes,
correct.
And I think it was just an additional check and balance on the process to make sure that the money was actually being spent the way the deans were saying it, because I can sit over here and say that I'm hiring, that I'm doing all this sort of thing, but without some sort of check on the process, you're taking people's word, which people might be comfortable with. But as an accounting major, I'm like, I want a level of control with that.
And I really, really respect that. But we did talk about, are you saying you need an audit because we don't trust you? I mean, that came up. I got to put it on the table. And Kevin and I were a little concerned, what message are we sending? And maybe that wasn't the message we intended. Maybe it is just, this is the normal way we do things. We need to be sure.
And it's going to cost somebody something.
Yeah.
Where is that money going to come from?
Yeah.
You maybe.
So this is
Not
this is an example. Like this is an example of this is a student publications audit that Andy Hertig sent me. Like it's just random. The point is,
Dude, they're all worse.
yeah, I know, but I ransacked my email. I searched Steve Bureau, it come up. I searched Andy. But I mean, it's. I guess maybe we define the parameters of what we want.
And then it'll show in their findings, basically. So it kind of does an overview, and then I saw that you had that.
And then that one
they
probably
make
says they need to change the way they do payroll or something.
It did say that. Yeah. Here you go.
Well, yeah, then we find out, they're not following the policies of the university, so they know that, but.
So you won't find that with a fee, because.
Well, we can, because, I mean, it's the same thing, if they're not processing timesheets or whatever, I mean, then it gets into, they're not following the policies, but. I mean, I really don't see much different than what we're doing previously, but I mean, I get what you're saying, because this is a little different than with the deeds, and, I mean, so.
I'm not opposed, but it's who's gonna do it, who's gonna pay for it. I think that is something to address.
And we gotta get.
And I gotta go.
And I'm gonna get up with Steve and Mom.
No, we need to check our Steve, we need to though, so.
And I did mention it to them.
Yeah, you told me.
Party
You
was coming.
Thank you.
Thank
See you later,
you.
see you tomorrow.
Okay, so that's kind of what we wanted to talk about tonight. Do think on the review process though, because that's something that I guess just timeline wise, we will have a little bit of time in April to discuss, and that we want to put together for review to happen in November. And that's something that I think that Jonathan and I want to establish. Fix, I guess, going forward, that it's a standard. I mean, it's just, that's the issue with this year, and it's kind of what happened last year. We got lucky and caught it at the right time, Jessica and I did, but about what are we supposed to review, when are we supposed to review it, and how are we supposed to review it? And I think Jessica and I kind of wrote the book last year as we saw fit in 2016, there you go. But I think moving forward, it's consistency, it's a process, and we can make that happen this year. Anything else for the good of the order? I know that there's the professional advantage fee. Let me just tell you, just look over the attachment that I sent you and honestly let either Trent or Cindy, I guess, be good two people to go to with questions about that. All right. So next week, 6 o'clock, Jonathan will get everything started. Everyone should not be here after a couple minutes. And we will, like I said, it's a quick turnaround time for the College Tuition Committee, but we're hoping to have a proposal because we don't have a meeting on the 27th. Jonathan and Olivia and I will be in DC. And Sarah and Trent.
And Trent, yeah.
We invited Heather. She told us no. So.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Let's go back to that conversation.
Yeah. All right. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Okay, so yeah.
And my last one is a little bit of maybe
I love the
helping I'm talking to friends.
Yeah, is to see if there's a way to put a link, like the privilege free website that says all the information. How much dollars goes to where, and how it's accessible, things like that. So that people see this privilege fee, and they go, I don't know why I should run it. They can somehow click a link and it would take
We have a study session there, and so we pay for the coffee for like that whole time. So I'm just about to go like.
They could type in and they print it. You know what I mean? I mean, we could do that.
I thought, I just said, people were even tweeting at us over Christmas break. What's my privilege fee going towards? I don't even know what this is. And so I thought, if there was a way for them to just click a link and take it out there.
Each 8,000 students to one privilege fee member, just to tell them what it is.
So I'm gonna talk to them about it and see if it's possible to link it on the questions in, or if that's not possible.
Well, I'll just kind of warn you, I've heard that we struggle getting changes to the bill because of priority. And it's just not always a high priority within people. So it may not happen real quickly, but just to kind of, well, just having enough resources to be doing all the other things that have to be in pieces. And then taking the time to make any changes to the bill. Because I was wanting to add, and was kind of told.
Yeah.
Get long. So that's it.
Right, it's a sword. Yeah, it sounds very aggressive.
Right, I was gonna.
Which I kind of feel
You, so I had Karen, I knew I was gonna see you, and you're gonna be asked me, what's going on? So, and I should have probably told you earlier,
but I can see why, like,
Yeah.
you know.
I think,
our tuition is not
Tuition
and the tuition fees
Our coverage fee did not go up last year.
I need to change this.
We have it like for good year.
There's some fee just changed by 25 cents. So like, I don't look up there.
Which is,
And the other thing,
2 hours.
Okay, we requested someone who's really quick. That was my practice, and it kind of just was very organized.
Did you like my comments?
I don't want to.
You're selling this, aren't you?
We did.
You're done?
It ended.
Yeah.
It's okay with that. Sorry, I looked at you and thought, yes.
I say he was talking the other last time.
Sometimes I have to shut it down. I'll be really hard to sign it off. I said, that's good. Typically, like on a Monday, it's like,
Yeah, you can read how many people were on. Oh, wait, no, we ago. What do you like number 7?
Number 7, yeah.
Okay. We'll get the region, would be.
No, I'm good. I would love it from the
So, let's get us like peanut butter patties now. The fee was there. I paid for drinks for like serving. So, over 4 years, that was like this fee was in doubling.
Honestly, it doubled. It doubled what I paid my freshman year.
Right? And it's not to be a lot more.
Doing,
But
39.
So it's not 4 years, it's 2 years.
Really, it should be 2 years.
And I was so like, yeah, it was not
Well,
like
it should be 2 years.
What? At the very end.
Because our freshman year was 39.
It was so impossible to win because every time I do it right now, it's at you know, that's like a little bit that every time you saw me, literally get on to like I want.
Because they were just $50.
I was like, I don't know what to do, and that brings you like
Yeah, we gotta work on that sentence.
I know, it's really aggressive, but like I'm trying to put it in perspective. Yeah, I don't know how else to, and you've got a lot of points in here too, so let's see. Yeah, I mean, after right, I was just like, and then finally. I know, I haven't come to you designated as like so you could. Yeah, I don't know what's up this one. Your bed is golly, it sounds like I have to do my green for her. I forgot that. Yeah, I forgot this.
They were so like, you know,
That's really this flavor. That's good results. Like, oh gosh, it's like
Not even the first year, we're already there.
yes. I love how Gabby more than double.
This fee, my sister sent me.
Oh my god, I have my there's one and like it makes more sense. I know, but like I need to look at the numbers. Here, I was like memorizing
After our freshman year to sophomore year, increase was 15.
oh my god, freshman year was at 30.
30.
Freshman year, we just got cheap.
But like especially since they won't load reports.
No, super excited. Well, he's a bio.
Like,
You went up $15.
Maybe that is.
More.
17.
It went to 84, so plus 30.
Yeah.
So
So-
the AT did stay flat.
Yep. So on that side there, there's only 2 years. I mean, you could say.
From 40 to, and it's, yeah. and
I got
then-
a
How about the
That's
second,
true.
the second sentence that you start with, I know, the
heavy sacrifice.
rapid growth
I feel like.
of the college.
It's pretty busy.
department.
Right there.
It's pretty busy, rapid growth of the department. Which was.
We have 190
Was due to the blah, 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 whatever, those,
Yep.
yeah.
Does it look good? I didn't really look at it.
Has resulted in
Jordan just walks in, all right?
a shortfall of faculty and a high student faculty ratio.
Because I worked at Harry's on it.
Okay, because that's a towards input growth. Okay, so the rapid growth of the department, which was due to the A, has resulted in a shortfall of
Can we just
faculty.
literally look at your
That's literally what Harry's
ratio.
calls it. The first time they said it, I was like, what?
Okay, so we take that out.
I made my resume.
Period. It could be argued, or
Meet you there.
how, as a college,
Don't make fun of me.
have
And, like,
you
they don't
managed
Don't appreciate.
To take on like the responsibility, like
Seriously.
to manage these consequences of the UIA, the vowels.
Hey, this question's been asked for the last 4 years. Like, when we first came here as freshmen, the group that was the focus group said, how are you gonna help the students? Financially.
So should we say, as has been asked year after year or something?
Or maybe say, as in the last 4 years.
That's really
A satisfactory answer.
Yeah.
I mean, like every
I just think it's like good to ask. It's like this isn't students' fault that you don't do.
Oh, yeah.
Or like, what specific action steps have you taken to address this for students that will pay nearly double? So then you could pull that
You know when like
in somewhere.
shut up. Do something about it.
Or I guess that's what you're saying, how is a college should be managed?
Oh, I actually might not be here next year.
want to get licensed.
I'm not really.
And what specific, for students who have, there we go.
Is that, I could be, is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, that's what I said, right?
You know the word is like.
I wanted to do a role by sense and not to where he starts yelling at us and doesn't really like.
I'm like.
We got something about how they might have been sold really goods when they were coming here, since they're paying twice as much now.
Wait, what did you say?
I've been sold really goods and
I'll show up.
they're only paying, $200 in fees. and
Wait, you
they're
guys are close on
$500.
Sundays?
Well, so I know that the
Now that.
college, University of College says
Yeah.
This is gonna be your fourth.
Yeah, I told you I saw you like.
They did tell us that we
right
get a better
now
deal though
afterwards,
over
and you were, like,
Kaylee's,
kind of upset.
whatever.
Spot rate.
Yeah, five tuition.
Just keep working.
Only
Are we
good.
done? Have we ran the numbers on that? Cause I don't believe it.
Well, so
Hey,
it was a good
start
deal
on
for
the
everyone.
next one.
I think it was the
It
last.
was a good deal for everyone before us, but not us.
We're 20 minutes after.
Yeah.
Because I
We will get rolling
had
on
a
that.
stamp on my hand, something that's pretty.
I don't really care. It's okay. Well, I saw you like really running today. You're running up a hill.
Oh, yeah.
It was. That was Will. That was Will. He's working really hard. Today I'm driving my car.
It's worth it. It's like really worth it.
All right, just to make sure, because I know I screwed this up earlier, did everybody get the email with the agenda today?
Yeah.
Did Annie get it?
Annie's
She's not here, so maybe
Yeah.
not.
No, she like knows she's gonna be.
So one thing I want to show you, just in case you may want to send an email out to the whole group. Is if you go to your email to create a new email, type in Senate exec committee, it should pop up. If you click on it, and then make sure you click this little plus sign here, and that'll throw out everybody's email address, so that everybody gets in their inbox. If you don't hit the plus, then it lands in the groups feature of 360, and so some people never see that. So make sure you hit the plus sign there.
Is that for every committee?
No,
Oh, okay.
only for the committees that it gets set up for. So
Probably not.
this one,
Well, if you set,
you can
set it up.
you can set it up for your own.
I
Yeah.
feel like I've made it. This
Alright,
far.
just make
Yeah.
yourself a little group.
It's pretty simple, right? So, hey Nick, on the left side there's the groups thing. If you hit plus, you can start a new group. Give it whatever email address you want it to be. So, yeah.
I thought it was like.
And does that create the listserv? 'Cause you said.
They'll create this listserv. Or, I mean, it's not an official listserv, but it creates the group of email addresses.
Oh, I thought it was linked through OrgSync, and I thought that was super cool.
That would be really cool, but sadly not. Also, is everybody in the group me too?
Yeah.
There's group.
Heather's not.
I need to be in the group me.
Sweet.
Sometimes that just runs into problems.
Have you seen it?
It's pretty professional.
Have you seen the profile picture? Is it still Jonathan?
That was pretty good. I
that's
was talking in years past. It was, I got invited to a lot of things that I probably.
All right. Anyways, we'll get underway with our business for today. So the one thing I want to talk about is SGA week. So we're kind of halfway through the week, I guess, looking at things. Monday we had presentations that were pretty sparsely attended. Was it Lacey's?
Yeah.
Anyways, I thought they were pretty good. I like to think that more students were listening than were present.
I think there were. I really truly think there were.
'cause
Like,
there-
I don't think it was like a huge amount, but I think it was like a.
There was one girl up to the left, like she was manning a booth, and like was turned around the whole time. So apparently she didn't make it into Snapchat. So
Okay, sorry.
yeah. So now we're into the I guess pushing elections and then applying a senator on Thursday. Does anybody have any questions about how things are going or what things we may be facing?
How did our tabling work with the candidates tabling?
It was
It actually,
constructed beautifully, in my opinion.
I thought it worked really well.
Balls together. The donuts and
The reason I'll say that is because the booth I was at was outside the union. And so when people were coming in, they're like, oh, well, I don't know anything about the candidates. And we were able to say, well, you know, if you go inside to the union, all 4 candidates have tables. Additionally, the collegian, then Jack had just sent the email too. So like, you know, if you don't have time right now, if you're rushing home or rushing to class or work, you can always take some time. You have the email in your inbox where to vote. The collegian website has a profile of all the candidates, so people could be informed. So if I had to speculate, I think we're gonna have pretty high voter turnout. So based on kind of what we were getting from people, a lot of people said they voted. So
And there'll be more donuts tomorrow morning. And I think I'm gonna leave them in Jonathan's office so we don't need them all. That definitely
what if
I like double checked the donut box and I was like, oh, is there still empty inside? I mean, there's nothing.
anyways, does anybody have any questions about anything? Who was in charge of the Pie Senator Day?
Us 3.
How's that going?
Oh, crap.
Good. We got the space outside rented, so that should be all set, tables and chairs on Thursday.
Sweet.